Hello everyone. I wanted to share one of the finishes that I use on my hand painted signs. I know some of you have been wanting some new ideas on how to make the wood look distressed, and I have my own technique that I was going to share with you today. This actually used to be, and I'll flip it over and you can see, this was a big piece of plywood from a construction project that my husband was working on. It's used to be shelving in a garage, and it's plywood. It's fairly thick, nice quality plywood. It was painted both sides. So what I had him do was take the wood and cut it in 16 by 20 size for me, and then he used his router and he routed to make it look like it was separate panels in between. So it started off with that tan color, and then I painted it solid, the pale aqua, which was that was the first color I added. And I painted the whole thing solid aqua. Then I used the blue, it's a darker aqua color, you can see it here. And I brushed that on lightly over the surface. And then I used my scraped paint technique. Let's see, you can see it here. See where the blue is blockier? I take a piece of wood. Well, actually what I use is the base for a plastic plant from an aquarium. But it's easy for me to hold because I dip it in the paint on the palette, and then I scrape it like that. And you get this really nice, it looks like the paint's peeled off. It's a nice paint effect. I use it all the time on my stuff. And once that dried, then I went over with white, and I brushed it lightly with the white paint. And then I did the scraped paint technique here. You can see where it's heavier. Okay? And it just adds that rustic, see how that looks like it's paint, it's like a paint chip? That's what you get when you use the block. And you can get that effect with a little piece of wood if you want. So anyway, so I started with the light aqua, then I added the darker blue, then I added the white. Now the key to getting a nice rich look with these layers of paint is use 3 colors. Now those colors can be, like the base color could be a bright white, and then the second color could be like a creamy white, and then maybe a beige. It doesn't have to be colors, so don't think, oh my god, I got to pick out 3 different colors. You don't. Okay. For beachy stuff and some rustic stuff, fun stuff, you could do different colors because, over time people painted their stuff different colors, reds and aquas. I mean, you can really have a lot of fun with it. Okay. White is always a good color to work with to add, just to kind of add that little bright contrast. So anyway, so 3 colors, and here you can actually see that's the original color coming through when I sanded it. See, it came up. So that's cool too. So the more detail you add, the better. Then I hand painted, once that dried, I hand painted my lettering, and I added shadow. Now, adding hand painted shadow to it can be vinyl letters or it can be stencil letters. When you hand paint shadow on it, it makes it look like the whole thing's hand painted. So that adds a really nice effect. Also, if the letters are dark, you can do highlight on the lettering. And you act like the light is coming from this direction. So the shadow is always on the opposite side. And if it's highlight, you're going to do the highlight on the side where the light source is coming from. Okay. Okay, so then once I got my lettering done and the shadowing and all that done, then I did my fly specking. And you can see that here. I started with the white, and to get the fly speck, you use your toothbrush. And you dab it in your palette of paint, and then you flick it. Okay, like that. And that's how you do the fly specking. And you want to do 2 colors. I always do black and white. And in this case, I used that dark charcoal gray from the shadows. So it's white with the charcoal gray, and that's what I used for the fly specking. So, sanding. I forgot about the sanding. I do this before the fly specking. I took my palm sander and I sanded all the edges to make these look like separate pieces of wood. I did all around the edges, and then I rounded the corners here too. Okay, so you want to do that around the whole sign, all the corners and edges you want to sand. And then I used my homemade vinegar and steel wool mixture to stain the wood. Now if you have regular stain, you can just take your paintbrush and just do the edges and then wipe it off. I didn't do, sometimes I go over the whole thing with the stain and then I rub it as best I can and it gives it a real rustic look. This one I wanted to keep pretty bright, so I kept the stain on just the edges and just kind of blended it. Okay, so because I wanted it to stay pretty bright. That's the other step that you want to do too, for sure. You want to do this for sure. Otherwise it looks like a painted sign no matter what. So anyway, so that is how I got the finished effect on my beach bar sign. And you got the fly specking, you got the multi-layers of paint. I did the dry brushing, I did the block, where I used my block to get the nice broad areas of paint. See, and it looks like peeling paint. And that's it. So anyway, if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below and have fun with it. And I'll talk with you later.